Hello, my name is Prime, and welcome back to ETS2 Showcases, and today we're going to be hauling some car batteries here in Sweden, more specifically here from Gothenburg over to Vaxo. And well, yes, it's not a long delivery per se. I've never actually driven in this section of the map here in an ETS2 Showcase video, so I thought it'd be a great opportunity for us to do so and drive across a beautiful section of Sweden. But to be honest, the primary reason why we are here in Sweden is because of our trailer. So as you may be able to tell, I am using the new trailer or combination that came in with the 1.56 update for anyone who owns the Schmitz-Cargobull trailer pack, and that being the HCT or high capacity transport trailer chain, which has two fairly good sized trailers back to back. And as of recording this video in ETS2, you can only use these HCT trailer combinations in Sweden and Finland, I do believe. So with that said, we're going to be using this DAF XG Plus to haul this HCT trailer, and of course all the used car batteries within it. So without further ado, let's get our DAF truck started up and get on the road. Now in today's video, I am not using any third-party modifications. Everything you hear and see is Euro Truck Simulator 2 and official downloadable content or DLCs that you can purchase for the game. All right, let's get rolling. Hopefully everyone's doing well. I certainly am, and great to be back here in ETS2. And well, if my camera can cooperate with me with this building, which it does not like it because of the size of the delivery today, or shall I say the length, we're gonna have a little bit of fun here. And if you've been around here on the channel for a while, you will know that, well, I sometimes struggle with bouncing back, especially between ATS and ETS2, because, well, big shock and surprise, a lot of driving dynamics do change quite significantly when you're talking about a cab over truck versus not, and simply the trailer configurations as well, and how the axle placements are. There is a fairly decent difference between European and North American trucks and how they drive. So sometimes, albeit I can't really say it's a full excuse, sometimes I do get caught out by this, but I'm going to try and have this video go as smooth as possible. But again, I am Prime Simulation, and if you've been around here for a while, you know that most likely will not happen. But that is okay, right? It's entertaining, at least hopefully it is, because if not, I'm just making a fool of myself for no reason. But that is okay. There's been a lot of great news here on ETS2 recently, and I'm assuming the truck is just not liking all the proximity stuff. I do not know what that noise was. If you could hear that, hopefully you can, that comes through in editing. Well, it normally does, but yeah, that was a weird sound. There's been a lot of great news here on ETS2, if I can get what I want to say out before getting interrupted by the game. Lots of exciting things coming, and of course some pretty big developments, and admittedly it's been a little bit since I've been able to chat about it. Been a few things going on behind the scenes, which again in a bit of a push to get some stuff rolling here, and things are going very well. Some things for select community members may already notice or know about a couple things going on. I'll inform you all more about that one in due course whenever things fully wrap up on that. But we've got a lot of things to talk about here at ETS2 that once again have come out, and we've just got to get around this corner, get on the highway, and then I'll be able to do that with my undivided attention. There we go, just squeaked it by back there. Nice tight on ramp as we know and love here. Oh, that is the proximity and sensor alerts in this DAF XG Plus end, warning me about the proximity to the barriers. Well, I am trying to do my best there, game. Okay, car, you're gonna have to let me out because I've already got momentum, and the front half of my truck is already out. Oh boy. Welcome to the video, my friends. It's good to be back. Yeah, a bit of a rust on this. We'll see how it goes. But anyways, here in ETS2, where do I start is maybe the biggest question, because there are so many areas of the game that are being touched on very, very soon, or at least that's what it's looking like. From our knowledge, there's always new content or different updates coming from SEA Software for the game, which is absolutely fantastic. But at the same time, it's a little bit difficult to try and keep up, especially when I've got other administrative things I'm trying to deal with the channel. and I'm taking a bit of a sacrifice on the amount of content that goes out to make sure that things get set up properly moving forward. Anyways, in terms of ETS2, let's start here where we're driving right now. In Sweden, because, well, to no surprise, the Nordic Horizons DLC is getting very, very close for all intents and purposes, because we've had the gameplay video, the first official gameplay video of the Nordic Horizons DLC released a while ago, which is absolutely fantastic. That is a huge milestone in the DLC development. It is very exciting. Obviously, it will encompass part of Sweden as far as I know, and definitely into Finland, but arguably the biggest part of that whole DLC launch is the rework that is, from what I know, coming before it, but it honestly could release almost at the same time, in full transparency. The Scandinavia rework, or the Scandinavia DLC rework, I should say. So anyone who owns the Scandinavia DLC, which you'd have to own to be driving in Sweden or Finland, as well we are today here in Sweden, the Scandinavia DLC is getting a refresh because, well, it needs to be able to connect from where some of the other rework projects have left off, which I mainly kind of up into northern Germany, where some of those areas left off, and then obviously come up here into the Scandinavian region and then be able to unlock or at least blend the quality difference between Scandinavia DLC and into Nordic Horizons. Because where we're driving right now, albeit it does look good, you can tell by some of the designs of the roads and so on, and surrounding areas, that this is showing its age. Mainly different, textures like the rock on the side here, but again, mainly the roads and interchanges and so on. Scaling, detail level, etc. just isn't completely there. There were a lot more prefabricated assets and so on used in the map expansions when they came out originally. That is being changed now with the new quality and standard that SCS Software has. And so the Scandinavian DLC refresh or rework, depending on how you want to call it, is pretty significant and will encompass this area as far as I know, and from what I've learned across doing some Prime News videos on it, admittedly not as much as I'd like, and then of course some of the blog posts and other things that I've done a little research and reading up on. Either way, that is a huge update, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to it. Again, an older section of the map that needs to be refreshed anyways, and if it comes with an added bonus of being able to explore through this reworked region and drive into a brand new DLC if you choose to pick it up, well, I say that is a win-win all around. But speaking about other DLCs besides Nordic Horizon, and the rework, of course, associated with that, there's the Benelux rework, which I guess also ties into this whole general region as well. Again, bringing ETS2 up to the better standard of the other DLCs that were, came out, well, upwards of 8+ years ago. Bringing them up to the more modern standard, again, making the entire map more cohesive in terms of how it runs, and honestly probably more efficient as well in terms of modeling with how some of the loading features will now work. Again, the Benelux rework, that's been Belgium, Luxembourg, and Netherlands. That area is going to be very, very nice to see a rework brought in as well, and make some, cross-European travels a lot more, once again, cohesive on the map front, and just really not notice the quote-unquote older sections to the newer sections, as well, to be honest, happens already here in ETS2. It's pretty apparent, example where we're driving today versus some of the previous episodes in some of the newer DLCs or rework zones. But with that said, on the rework side, of course, there is also the Iceland DLC as well, which is exciting to its own degree. Another DLC coming down the line, which then begs the question, are we going to see the UK be reworked before Iceland? I feel like that's a strong possibility, especially with Scandinavia coming out with Nordic Horizons or somewhere in that, zone, at least the Scandinavia DLC rework. Nordic Horizons DLC, that kind of pairing, I feel like that same team could move over to the UK to make sure that any connection to Iceland makes more sense. And I feel like that's a strong possibility. Again, I guess only time will tell. This conversation could age terribly or beautifully, depending on how that one goes. There was also the big overarching expansion for ETS2. That is Project Coaches. Now, this is a very exciting DLC that, of course, we've talked about before. Very, very exciting. A long overdue, to be honest, expansion into ETS2. The ability to drive long-range long delivery coach buses in ETS2. Absolutely wonderful. And we've actually had a little bit more specific news on it, actually, and more, I guess, even more specifically than that, one of the main coach buses that we'll be able to purchase within that DLC. There'll be some other brands as well, but this blog post specifically talked about the Scania Touring, one of the, once again, more luxury long-range coaches that will be available. I know a lot of you are very, very excited. I ended up doing basically a community poll, actually, with the little post I did on the blog post. That wasn't purposeful. That was just YouTube that day doing a little bit of, I guess, a glitch or something like that, because it wouldn't allow me to upload the images normally like I typically do with some of these community posts. It wasn't allowing me to do that at all. I couldn't upload any images. It just was throwing an error. But I could put a couple images in a quiz. So that's what we did. That's what I did. And I mean, in the same way, it actually worked out well, because I got to kind of see where everyone is, lying on the different coach buses and what brand loyalty they could be going towards. And I can say the vast majority of individuals who took part in that post, if I can get my words out, they were definitely on board with the whole Scania Touring. Obviously a very, very popular bus in general, or coach. No surprise, honestly, also with the Scania brand, but I believe we can also expect an MAN bus and probably a Volvo bus, if I remember from some of the either teaser videos and so on, and some of the other imagery that we have. It seems like there were some other brands. I believe there's also some other ones just straight up confirmed. Either way, some other brands that we can probably expect, that we know and love already here in ETS2, to have some of their flagship coaches brought in. It's going to be very exciting. And comment down below what coach bus you'd like to see added, and in terms of functionality, just what would you like to see with Project Coaches besides just point A to point B delivery? I truly do hope that we get to have multi-stop deliveries, quote unquote, for the passenger transport. I really hope that we can have that. To date, obviously, in ETS2, ATS, and so on, the delivery network has always just been point A to point B. And the nature of these more long-haul coaches, in all fairness, could be more on that point A to point B, line of transport. It's just as simple. You pick up passengers at one stop in one city and you take them to another terminal in another. I feel like that is a possibility, in all honesty, of occurring. But I really hope SCS Software puts in the ability for us to either select passenger transport routes, or however the module will work, or DLC, because again, I don't have a ton of information on Project Coaches, at least to my knowledge. Again, I could be missing something. We don't have a ton of knowledge on how the actual gameplay mechanic will appear, but I do really hope that we can at least select routes or deliveries that, and it sounds bad when we're talking about people as deliveries, but even still, if we can do the different routes, passenger transport routes, where at least we're making one extra stop. At least one. That's all I ask. I don't, I don't think I'll really complain either way, because at least we'll be able to drive licensed coach buses in ETS2, something that has been, well, talked about in supposed to be part of the game for pretty much its entire life, but never actually occurred until, well, now. I can't really complain. We're getting that. But again, I would really love to see the multi-stop function, and honestly, that would bode well for the trucking side of ETS2, because the logic of bringing in multi-stop passenger transport, almost a bit of a trial for seeing how the community would receive having multi-stop cargo transports as well, or different company contracts. That has been a long requested feature across the games that, at least for me, I'd love to see. The ability for us to, say, work for Euro goods, let's say here in ETS2, and with our ownable trailer and truck, drive from one facility to the next, and then automatically drop off, and in the same, you know, animation, for example, here in ETS2, get then reloaded back up with whether it's a completely different cargo or, say, some empty pallets, and then we've got potentially split loads. That's maybe asking too much, but then you still got some goods plus some empty pallets, and then as you go across your delivery chain in a certain region, you then, you know, you finish off your route by returning all the empties back to a distribution center once you're done, say, delivering to some of the different stores around or whatever it may be. Bringing in some of those extended logistics chains have been something I've always wanted, and I know a lot of you have wanted as well. And so I feel like this passenger transport, you know, with Project Coaches, really could open the door for something amazing in terms of how the cargo network actually works here in ETS2 as well, if that goes over well in Project Coaches, and assuming that they do multi-stop along the way. If they don't, you know what? It's going to be what it is. And maybe, just maybe, the wonderful modding community would do something about that. I have a feeling they probably would. Either way, I'd hope that it's stock in the DLC itself, and that it opens up a potential new window of opportunity here in ETS2 and potentially into ATS as well, especially if we start talking about the a more enhanced logistics chain and network in the games. I feel like whether people want to, you know, or whether the vast majority of players want to use that feature or not, I feel like it would ultimately get used, regardless of the total number of players. And I think it would become a very popular feature overall. And honestly, when it comes to something like the quick job market or so on, or even just the freight market, when you have your own truck, you know, you're trying to maximize where you're going at all times. And of course, being able to pick up from the same spot, or especially if you do own your own trailer then as well, I feel like this is just the best way to approach this. Again, comment down below what you think on that one. That's my 2 cents and a bit of a rant on it, as per usual. Again, we'll just have to wait and see. All right, let's spin around here. I probably should have been in the left lane because I was coming over here. Sorry, game, and the cars around me. Nice and tight. Getting around there. This trailer honestly does follow really well. We haven't had any issues, at least none that I've noticed. Nothing in the mirrors, and there's nothing damage-wise that has popped up, so I'd say we're doing pretty good. I'm taking wide corners, and I think, you know what? I am learning, friends. Believe it or not, after doing this for many years, you would think I would start to, you know, learn a few tricks of the trade, and I'll be honest with you, and I've said it before, I'll say it again for those who need the reminder, and for those who are watching to the end, well, thank you. Keep in mind, besides trying to be, you know, fairly realistic, I'm not going to be so, you know, shall I say, serious with it, that I don't always, or I don't occasionally just, you know, become less careful, shall I say, with how I'm driving my truck and trailer around. You know, sometimes for the sake of the videos, I don't mind just having a little bit more of a relaxed approach, not as, you know, careful or considerate in some ways of the surroundings. So then some funny moments do happen. Because at the end of the day, we're supposed to have fun. It is a game. There is no consequence per se of, well, crashing or having some damage. It's just a simple repair, and that is it. Yes, is it not overly realistic? And this is a wonderful parking spot for the game. Thank you so much. The content creator in me loves this. Straight up against a brick wall. We'll go back here. It's not supposed to be an overly serious thing, in my opinion. Obviously, you can take it very seriously, and some series will be dedicated to that. But in general, I like to have a little bit of fun, and I know you all enjoy what I do as well, and I appreciate all the support along the way. Well, it has been great to be back here in ETS2 in the 1.56 update with this HCT trailer from Cargobull. I think there is another HCT trailer actually in ETS2 as well. One of the other trailer DLCs have it. However, great to have it with the Cargobull trailers. Wonderful trailers indeed, and great to be here in Sweden. Obviously, pre-Scandinavia DLC rework. It's going to be very interesting to see this read once again when it's reworked. We always love to come back and see it. Another reason why coming to Sweden right now was a nice time to do so, given that, well, as I talked about in this video, we're probably not too far away from whether it's the Scandinavia DLC rework or the Nordic Horizons DLC, one or the other. Again, we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.